Hi, I'm State Senator Len Fasano of the 34th District, which is Wallingford, North Haven, and East Haven. We have a very informative show. We're going to be talking about something called cord blood. And I have some very special guests with me, Christina and Glenn Mitchell, husband and wife, and they started a foundation called the Kacey Foundation. And what I'm going to do is just ask them to explain the foundation, how you got the names, and how it began. So, Christina, why don't you give us a little bit of a background?
Thank you, Len, for having us on the show. The Kacey Rose Foundation was started in memory of our daughter, Kacey Rose, who was diagnosed at the age of 16 months old with acute myeloid leukemia. After several rounds of chemotherapy, she relapsed, and we tried getting her back in remission. And while we were doing that, we also searched for a bone marrow donor. In the registry of 10.4 million at the time, Kacey didn't have one single match. Our only option at that point was a cord blood transplant. And Kacey received her transplant October 17th of 2007. And unfortunately, Kacey went into transplant with disease. Her cord blood that she received was donated by a mother who had donated her baby's stem cells in the year 2000. Unfortunately, Kacey went in with disease and relapsed after her transplant. But having received the cord blood transplant gave Kacey additional time with us. And it was not her cord that failed, it was her disease that was took her life. We established the Kacey Rose Foundation, obviously in memory of her, and part of our mission is to assist other families, local families that have children fighting pediatric cancer, and also to spread awareness regarding cord blood donation.
So essentially, you tried the bone marrow, which typically people look to when they have cancer. Those are the types of things when you talk to people who have family members who have severe cancer, they look at the bone marrow transplant to help fight this cancer. But Glenn, let me ask you, we're talking about something different. We're talking about cord blood. Where does that come from? Give us an idea of what cord blood actually is.
Okay. Cord blood stem cells are collected from the placenta after a child is born. So in essence, without getting into the medical part of it, because that's not my forte, the end result's the same. The point is to install fresh stem cells into the empty marrow cavities that will eventually replicate and create a new source of the patient's own red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, and eventually an immune system. And most people, as you said, are very familiar with bone marrow being the main source of that. But the secondary source that a lot of people aren't aware of is from cord blood.
And when we talk about bone marrow, I think we were discussing that as a possible way. But with bone marrow, you have to have it's a tougher match, isn't it, than it is with cord blood? Can you explain, when I say tougher match, can you explain what I mean?
Yes, Brennan? Absolutely. For you to have a a bone marrow match, they're looking for something called HLA matching, and for you to receive a bone marrow transplant in most any facility in the country, you have to be a 6 out of 6 match. So most times that's why you'll see that if somebody needs a bone marrow transplant, they'll look to the immediate family and siblings of the patient, and then they start to spread out from there. And if they can't find a match in the immediate family, then they'll search the bone marrow registry, which, as my wife said, in 2007 there was 10.4 million people registered. But unfortunately, if you do not have a match in the bone marrow registry, you don't have any other options.
And that's a perfect match, 6 to 6
right,
match.
6 to 6.
And if you don't have that match, the bone marrow's out.
Correct.
And the second step would be the cord blood.
Right, to search the cord blood registry.
And what is that match? Is that match, you said 6 to 6, whatever those criteria are for marrow?
The cord blood is a little bit more forgiving. They'll go down to 4 out of 6. Okay. So it offers more flexibility for a patient who has a mixed ethnic background, or they don't have any siblings or close family relatives to even potentially have a bone marrow match. it's just so much more forgiving, because even, like I said, with my daughter, out of 10.5 million people, there were no matches.
On the bone marrow.
On the bone marrow for a 6 out of 6 match, but we found a great match of 4 out of 6 for cord blood. And that was used to give my daughter much more time.
And a chance to
A chance, yes, absolutely.
Now, when they talk about this cord blood, and you told us where it came from and that the match is easier, I mean, the first I've ever really heard of using cord blood for cancer treatment, I've heard of bone marrow, but I never really heard of cord blood, was when you guys came in to talk to me about getting some legislation to let people know and be aware that there is this cord blood bank that you can go to. Now, how does that work? I mean, where are these banks? How many are there? Does every state? I know Connecticut doesn't have a public one. I understand there's public and private. Christina, why don't you explain? There's a public and there is a private. Is that correct?
So
and what's the difference between the two?
There's two options of banking your baby's cord blood, or there's 3 options. You could opt to have it discarded. You could opt to privately bank it, or you could publicly donate it. So, you know, privately banking would be for, you know, your own use. God forbid a sibling were to come down with an illness, you could possibly use your baby's stored stem cells. Public option gives people, you know, the general public, a second chance at life, where maybe there's not a bone marrow match. So it gives them another opportunity for survival, basically. And it's effortless. It's, you know, the stem cells are retrieved from the umbilical cord at the time of birth, and they're sent to a public bank for storage. And,
you know, I have 3 kids, and no one ever brought up anything about the cord blood option out of any of the 3 kids I had. Never even knew about it, as I said, till I met you guys. But it seems to me that it's a safe procedure, doesn't interfere with the whole birth aspect of it. There's no interference with that. It's done afterwards, and there's a needle to extract out the material that you need. And the stem cells, and we all hear about the ability that people are using stem cells in research. And this is what it does. It takes out those stem cells, which are cells that can help fight the cancer, and then it's stored. What you're saying, you can store it privately for your own family use.